rude?
No, he wasn't creepy or rude.
Okay.
I just don't think I was in the headspace to like talk to anybody.
Okay.
So I
Sure.
think that's why I ignored it.
Well, I mean, you don't owe
fair.
anybody a conversation, but I mean,
Wait, you guys met in person, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So did you guys like exchange numbers that night
Yeah.
or something, and then he just kept texting you?
okay, all right. What about you? Relationship status?
Single.
Single. Okay, how long have you been single for?
8 months.
All right, longest relationship?
1 year.
1 year. All right. No guys in the picture currently?
No guys.
No guys?
No guys. I'm trying
Okay.
to date, but
Sure.
men are.
Men are what?
They're not creepy. I don't think men are creepy. I would disagree with that. I feel like you think creepy guys are probably like the ugly ones or unattractive, I should say. But like, I was like telling my
That's a good
friend, like
point.
if a hot guy like comes up to us and like compliments us, it's like, oh my God. But if an ugly guy comes up to us and like tries like
Does
to
the same
flirt, same
thing?
thing.
Same thing?
We're just like, oh my God, dude. Because she was like the other day, she was like, oh my
It's
God,
true.
he like walked up, this guy's following us. And I'm like, but if he was hot, trust me, you would have been all about it.
I mean, it's an actually really good point. The exact same behavior will fall into desired or like undesired based on the attractiveness of the man. Obviously, there's some conduct and behavior that's unacceptable regardless, but
When Andrew said hot, good looking,
yeah.
Yeah, all of his
all of your five. Yeah.
It also goes though, like when girls are just nice to a guy, sometimes they misinterpret that as us flirting with them, and then it's like they just don't know when to quit. Like,
that's
hey,
so
I was
true.
just being polite. Like now, like stop bothering me.
That's so true.
Doesn't
I
mean
feel
that
like
I-
you just,
yeah.
like,
Wait,
give
didn't
them
you say
an inch
you'd
and
go
they'll
up to guys just to give them a compliment?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
You're
No,
and you
I
just
didn't
said
say
men
that.
never receive compliments.
What did you? What?
Didn't you say like you'll go up to a guy and just give him
I
a
will.
compliment?
Yeah,
Is it
I
a guy
will.
that you're interested in?
Sometimes. I mean, I compliment women too if I see them. Like, it doesn't have to be sexual.
if you-
I just think in
Oh.
general, men don't feel enough like appreciation and praise. So I just try to like, if I say like, oh wow, I really like your boots. Those are nice boots. Or
Okay.
you really play pool well. I don't know. It doesn't. I'm being just nice.
That's cool.
But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like if you're a customer service worker and a guy, you're like being nice because that's your job, and then they like want your number, and then it's like it just makes it uncomfortable.
I think it's
I get
hard when you
that.
have like a friendly personality and you're just like a warm person.
Yeah.
I feel like that's taken as like, oh,
Yeah.
ooh, all right. You know what I mean? I feel like it's like taken like to the next level.
Relationship status?
Well, I'm single. I've never been in a relationship, and that's about it.
You want to elaborate?
Yes. Well, I feel like my teens and 20s, I just like wasn't ready to date anyone. It really just wasn't a priority for me. I feel like I was just, I don't know, living my life, and it just wasn't something that I was super interested in, honestly. And then I also feel like on top of that, I don't experience attraction that often, so that also made it easy for me to avoid dating.
Do you want to elaborate?
And I am a virgin at 34 years old.
Okay, thank you. And there was a New York Post article about this. Nick, could you pull it up?
Oh, we got the article.
We're going to get the New York Post article. I'm going to have you read it. If you can you see the screen?
You want me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm a 33-year-old virgin who is not religious. This is why I've never had sex. That's not a direct quote, but that is true. Do you want to keep reading it?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, okay. A 33-year-old virgin says there's nothing wrong with being a late bloomer and insists it's quite common for millennials to have never done the deed. Also not a direct quote, but yes. Lauren Harkins made the claim in an interview with Southwest News Service, revealing religion wasn't the reason why she's remained chaste. I'm a virgin, but I'm not traditional. Usually it's one or the other, but I'm just very content on my own, the Portland, Maine resident stated. That is true.
Thank you, JJ. Okay. So, have you been on a date?
I've never been on a date, no.
Not even a date.
I haven't, because I am very all or nothing, so I'm not going to go on a date with someone that I'm not interested in. I'm not going to waste anyone's time. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to lead anyone on just to get a free meal. So no, I've never been on a date
Okay.
with anyone.
Have you been asked out on dates?
I have.
Okay.
Yes. Have.
How many times have you been asked out?
Oh, golly, I don't know. I mean, asked out or like approached. I feel like asked out is kind of like next level. I feel like I've been approached more than I've been technically asked out. A lot of times, hundreds,
Hundreds?
probably over the years.
And you
yeah.
rejected them all?
Yeah, I mean, like a friendly way. I'm a friendly
Sure.
gal, but yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
None of them, and was it lack of physical attraction, lack of...
I mean, for me, it's everything.
Personality.
It's like it's lack of physical attraction, but I think it's also it's something that you just feel. If I feel someone is not for me, again, I'm not going to waste anyone's time. I personally do think that there has to be that that feeling there. I think it's honestly the same with like friends. Like I know who I like, who I want to be friends with. It's just it's like who you jive with in that way. So it's not just, you know, for romantic relationships. For me, I'm just very intentional with who I surround myself with.
Have you ever felt that?
With a man?
Yeah.
No. I mean, no. I've never. No one that I've met, I've felt that for.
Have you ever been physically attracted to a man?
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting there. I feel like I've, to some extent, but also I feel like that, again, that emotional connection has to be there. So nothing specific that I can say, but
Have you ever...
And do you? I'm just curious. And maybe this sounds a little off. You don't have to ask it or answer if you don't want to. But do you suffer from any forms of mental illness by chance?
What's up, Andrew? I don't
What's up?
actually. I don't. I'm actually. I think I'm a pretty healthy girl. I don't have any. I'm pretty fortunate. I don't have any mental illness to speak of. I don't have any trauma to speak of. Very limited baggage. Very.
Well, can I qualify to you why I asked the question? Because I know
course,
that
yeah.
it seems a little off, right?
Absolutely.
Especially for somebody who promotes the virtue of chastity in society.
Of course.
The reason that I promote the virtue of chastity in society is because it's a virtue. If somebody is angling for the virtuous end, I think that that end is good, right? So they're angling for it for virtue. But that does not appear to actually be what you're doing. It appears that it has nothing to do with virtue. You just don't find men to be particularly attractive, and so you don't sleep with them, right?
That's fair. I think it's also both. I mean, I'm not religious, so I don't know if I would personally use the word virtue, but I do understand what you're saying. I think for me, it's yes, I don't experience attraction, but even if I did, I still think it's so important to be intentional about who you share your body with. I think it's important to be intentional about everything, honestly. Again, who you surround yourself with. So
But you have no higher reason that you're appealing to for that. It's just like kind of an innate set of preferences that you have.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I wonder if these aren't just post hoc justifications for the fact that you're just not particularly attracted to men. And so you kind of justify these things by saying, well, I think that it's important. The reason that I'm not is because of X, Y, Z. It's like a justification for, for this factor. Now, I'm not beating up on you. I'm just genuinely curious because it's rare that you run into a secularist who is a virgin because, of course, generally speaking, people pursue that because it's some kind of virtue. So I'm just wondering, since it's not a virtue, is this just a post hoc justification for, well, I'm just kind of like a social weirdo, right?
I understand what you're saying.
Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
No, I get you.
Yeah.
I don't take offense to that. I understand what you're saying. I do think, though, for me, it is both. Even if I was attracted to men at the same rate as, other girls, I think I would still be just very selective with who I share my body with. I do think that's important. So, no, I don't think it's just, a post hoc argument that I'm trying to make. But I respect your opinion.
Yeah. Well, I'm not trying to beat you up. I'm actually just trying to kind of understand the worldview because there doesn't seem to be anything higher you're angling towards for this, right? So it's not in and of itself virtuous that you're pursuing the retention of your virginity because that's not why you're pursuing it, but rather because you just don't have any interest in having sex with men, essentially, is what I'm hearing. I mean, is
Okay.
that about correct?
No, that is correct. I mean, what would you
Okay.
say, like for you, what would you say is your position as far as the virtue is concerned, so that I can understand where you're coming from?
Well, so generally, especially in modernity, a good sign of female virtue is the intact chastity. And so, especially because that's under assault constantly, you'll note that women will often lose their virginity and then go and tell their friends they should do the same thing, right? It's like once the thing is gone, they almost want to kind of lead a train of women to also lose that virtue as well. And so I think that often from the religious angle, there's kind of a higher value here of chastity, if I'm holding out for the right person because I'm pursuing the virtue of what it is to be chaste. But this is a different thing altogether. This is not, I'm holding out for the virtue of the thing or because I have some command that I'm following which is higher than me, but rather I just don't like, I'm just not attracted to men, so I don't want to have sex with them, right? So it just seems like it's a totally different kind of angle that I'm not used to hearing. So I wanted to kind of dive into it a little bit.
Yeah, of course. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I would say for
So
me,
I found it peculiar, right? And I'm going to bring this up too, because I found it peculiar that there was an article run on this. And I think that if it had been a Christian woman who had kept her chastity intact, no such article would have been written, that nobody would have given a shit. But because you're coming at it from a secular angle, I think that they were more curious about it. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm curious about it, right?
yeah, totally. I understand. Like I feel like I am kind of in a league of my own with this one. I know it is a bit. Usually, it's one or the other. You're either very traditional and saving yourself for a husband, and I think that's great, or it's you're.
Yeah, but why do you think that's great?
I think it's great. Well, so for me, I mean, I think it's great again to be intentional who you share your body with, and I think it's great to.
But I mean, isn't a prostitute intentional about who she's sharing her body with?
Yeah, that's fair. That's a good point. I think just for me, like that lifestyle just does not appeal to me. That modern lifestyle.
Well, that I can agree with, right? The
Yeah.
lifestyle just doesn't appeal to you. I understand that, but
Yeah.
see what I mean by like the post hoc justification?
Yeah, I
when you
get
say
you.
things that are kind of empty, like, I think that you should be very conscientious of who you share your body with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not confident that, like working girls are not sure who they're sharing their body with, right? So this is why I don't want there to be any confusion that there's some type of like virtue which is being pursued here, because that's not what's going on. And so I wanted to dive into why is this actually being pursued, because it seems almost maladjusted in a way, right?
Okay. I think I get you. I understand what you're saying. I think for me, it's just I operate based on what feels right for me. So societally speaking, like, yes, it's very unconventional. It's a very unconventional path. I'm not trying to be a virgin forever. I'm not trying to like promote this lifestyle of everyone should be a virgin in their 30s. But basically what I'm saying is like it's okay to be on your own timeline and to kind of step outside of that, the assumed way that it should be. I think, like for me, if something doesn't feel right, I'm not going to do it. If someone doesn't feel right for me, I'm not going to date them, and that I just haven't met someone yet that I connect with on that level. So therefore, I'm not going to do anything with them because that doesn't feel right.
Is there
for
a
me.
feeling of empowerment?
I do feel empowered by that. Yeah, I do, for sure. Not in like a super modern feminist way, but yeah, I do feel empowered by that. I feel like it empowers me to make choices that are aligned with my intuition versus what is expected. For sure, I think everyone should be empowered by the choices that they make. But yeah, I do feel empowered. by
And
that.
it also delineates you from other women, right? So that
Yeah.
would bring in additional attention, correct?
Tension in what way?
Well, I mean, in all ways, right? I mean, most women aren't having articles written about them because of their chastity. You know what I mean?
Right.
So in some ways, it sets you apart in a way that would also bring in more attention, doesn't it?
Did you say tension or attention?
Attention.
Attention. Okay, sorry. I thought you said tension. Attention. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I like attention. I quite enjoy it, and it's nice. It's nice that I can get attention for something that I just am doing as is. That's nice. I like being a voice for people also who live similarly to me. Since creating content around this, I've gotten so many messages from people all over the world who are living similarly to me and aren't as vocal about it. And I love being able to be a voice for those people who feel like ashamed about it, because I don't think there is anything to be ashamed of when it comes to being a virgin, even if you're older.
So would it be fair to say then, to ask you directly and bluntly, would it be fair to characterize at least some of the motivation behind this as being empowerment and attention?
Some of the motivation behind me being a virgin?
Staying that way, yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think the attention is a nice byproduct of that, but I'm definitely not doing this I'm not doing this solely for attention, and I'm not going to hang on to this for
Well, no,
attention.
I don't mean solely. I would not.
You
So
mean a part of
motivations
it.
that people have are usually very, very complex, at least inside their own heads. Even if on the surface they don't seem complex, they're usually complex.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just asking for a part. Is part of this the fact that there is attention and a feeling of empowerment that comes with the idea of staying a secular virgin just for the sake of doing so?
I'll give you a part. Yeah, sure. A part of it is
Okay.
yes. Yeah. I'll give it to
Gotcha.
you. Yeah.
And the reason I ask is because people have characteristics that define them in the world that people can point to pretty easily, right?
Yep.
Very, very good-looking people, for instance, are usually defined by how good-looking they are. Very ugly people are usually defined by how ugly they are. Very quickly, it's like a judgment assessment. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. People who are very wealthy are usually identified by their wealth, right? In fact, you'll even hear it said, if somebody's very wealthy, a person might say, man, yeah, I know that guy, and he's super rich. They just kind of throw it in as an identifier.
Yeah.
And so in this case, I just want to make sure that has this become really a keynote part of your identity?
I think that would be a fair assessment. Yeah, at this age, I feel like it has become a part of my identity. Sure. Yeah.
So it's not the pursuance, really, of virtue, but the fact that pursuing this path has now become part and parcel of your identity and all of the things which come with that. Is that correct?
That's fair, but I also feel like I'm not afraid to lose that identity in order to further this attention or the positive
Well,
aspects.
you can see from the external position, the person who's looking at this, you can say that. You can say, well, I'm not afraid of losing this identity.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an unfalsifiable statement, right? It's like, how would anybody ever know if that is correct or incorrect? They really wouldn't, right? We would just basically have to take your word that even though this has become part of your identity, that you're not trying to keep it as part of your identity specifically because of the kind of externalities which come with it, which would be things like attention and empowerment and the feeling of being in control and things like that, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I guess I feel like a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about, people really do have to take my word for it. I mean, I know last time I was on the podcast, everyone thought, not everyone, obviously, but a good majority did think that I was lying. So yeah, unfortunately,
I don't think you're lying.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think you're lying. So the thing is the reason I try to understand the worldview is because when I push in a message, I'm usually looking at the idea of the consequence of virtue in society. Mm-hmm. And while I'll be perfectly honest with you, and I don't see any particular virtue in you staying chaste because the motivations behind staying chaste are not virtuous, I still think that it's interesting enough that I wanted to comment on it and discuss kind of the idea behind it, right?
Yeah, no, I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. That's all I had, Brian.
All right, I have a couple follow-up questions here, and then we'll get into some more of the pre-show notes. So, Lauren, you did say you've never dated anyone, very selective in what you're looking for, virgin, straight, asexual leaning, but no